I'm here with Anne. It's okay. It's all good again. Anne Lord Jackson is with me. Hello, Anne.
Hello, it's lovely to be here.
We are continuing our series, aren't we, about Christmas? And I kind of came up with this really, not necessarily great title, but how to have a healthy, happy, sensory Christmas.
Very nice, like that.
Bit wordy, but so that's what we did last week. We did part one of how to do Christmas. We looked at particularly the build-up to Christmas. We used some generalizations for the sake of discussion, but how does the mum prepare for Christmas when she's got to wrap the presents and buy the food and organize these things? What could she do? And we went sort of from there on a journey of how can we prepare for Christmas, removing all the stress that isn't there. And then we got towards the idea of Christmas is getting closer now. How do others, when we're visiting, deal best so that they can have a healthy Christmas, sensory terms, and also visitors can have a sensory healthy Christmas. So you said you had some comments from last week. Did you want to start there?
Yeah, it was really lovely. So one parent already in our lovely Christian Sensory Support Facebook group that we've got, some of the feedback and some of the other comments that have come in from elsewhere, that they've started opening their presents. So that the stress is less on the day, so that their child can actually focus on the day and everything else that's going on the day, rather than the fact. So I don't actually think they're getting a present at all on Christmas Day. It's all been done beforehand, so that Christmas Day itself can just be totally enjoyed. So that was lovely feedback from one of the other mums. It was just putting the word out there. What other things folks doing? To help that we can use this platform, use Pure 24/7 Radio as a platform, just to let other people who might be listening, who are not all at the moment in any particular circles, to help. So one of the other mums was also saying that a visual timetable is something that they really love. I don't know if we've spoken that much. Do you want me to expand a little bit more on what a visual timetable is?
I don't think we have. It immediately made me think, ooh, I like that. So yes, let's delve deeper into that one.
Okay. Visual timetables are brilliant. There are lots of individuals who might have difficulties processing auditory information. So when you tell them something, they might forget it straight away, or they might not be able to remember. Or say, for example, if you ask someone to put their shoes away, or you go upstairs and put them in the drawer, put your socks in the drawer, and that's actually about 3 different instructions that you give somebody. Like you go upstairs and then you get into you put it in the drawer, and there's several stages to those steps, and lots of people can forget the steps involved. They got the main concept, but they've forgotten the steps, or they get up the top of the stairs and they've forgotten what was it I'm supposed to do again. So we typically use visual timetables as a way of just totally taking out the auditory processing side of it. So people's hearing might be absolutely fine, but the actual processing and the remembering and the sequencing and organizing themselves to follow verbal instructions, that's the same at school as well as at home or in the office and in the workplace. So visual timetables are brilliant for that, because they're actual instructions. There's more to it than just instructions, but they are instructions that are written in pictorial form. So you can literally take a picture of the bedroom, the place, the drawer, where you want the socks to be placed or the shoes to be placed, so that it's a visual prompt to remember to do something, but also to show them specifically, this is the drawer that this goes in. Now, when it comes to Christmas and when it comes to having a daily schedule, then what a visual timetable does, so you have those visual instructions, but they're kind of visual, it's a visual planner of what we have. Loads of us have on our phones, on our diaries, things that we know that we write in. But for some people, having an actual timetable in a pictorial form or literally printed up on the wall as a family timetable is a beautiful tool for just reducing those stress levels, reducing those arousal levels. And it helps people be a lot more content and a lot more calm, because they know what's happening next. So it might be getting up in the morning and then it's getting dressed. And actually, it's going to be a little bit different this time. because we're going to open the presents, or maybe you're off to church and it's not on a normal Sunday. So there are differences that don't normally happen according to different to days. And then you've got more people coming, and then you might want to have a picture of a bigger family gathering if you're having a bigger family gathering, or maybe having a smaller one because other people are away over Christmas. So you just have this a plan of the day put in visual form, whether it be photographs of people who are coming, whether it be pictures of where you're going. If you're going to somebody else's house that you don't normally go to, it again reduces the arousal levels, reduces the fear factor of something new that's happening that you don't know what is happening. So if you plan out Christmas Day, if you plan out Boxing Day, if you can show your individual step by step roughly what is going to be happening every hour or two, or sometimes even just what is happening next, if there's not a specific time thing. We know that the King's speech is going to be at 3:00 on Sunday, or on Christmas Day, I trust. I'm assuming it will be the same this year. So there are specific things that will happen at specific times, but sometimes we can't be in control of timings. So sometimes it's wiser not to say, right, okay, we're at 3:00, we're leaving Christmas lunch and we're going to go and head to somebody else's house. You may just want to have we're going to do this first, and then we're going to do this next. So there is very much this is how we progress through the day, rather than saying at 12:00 we're going to do this, at 1:00 we're going to do this, at 2:00 we're going to do this. So it's more of we do this first and then we're going to follow with this. But it's very much using a visual system, which is typically a strength for most people. Other senses, unless they're blind and have a visual impairment, then we will have that issue. But most individuals, regardless if they've got issues in their tactile system, or their proprioceptive vestibular systems, or their interoception, all of those other systems can be out of kilter. But often the visual system is working and processing well. So that's why those visual timetables are a great thing to be able to introduce if you haven't already, or even just introduce for a day or two. You don't need to have them permanently all the time, but have that visual plan ahead.
I think most of us probably have encountered asking someone to do something, like you said, go and do this job. But to do that job, there's a staircase, there's a door, there's a cupboard, there's a box, whatever. In order to get to stage 2, actually, that's like stage 3 or 10 or whatever. And I know that when I've been teaching my children to cook, I'll often say, do this, because I don't think about the number of steps to what this actually represents. So actually, then you start to break it down a bit simpler. And then you get frustrated thinking, well, why didn't you just do what I asked you to do? But they heard one part, probably the last thing, and didn't hear the first parts. Empty this first before you put it in the bin. Put it in the bin, that kind of thing. And of course, we jump. I think, is it signposts? They did some experiments with signposts on the road, and they took out various letters, and people still read the signs because they saw the picture of the word rather than the individual letters that create the full word, which I suppose is a part of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Wow, that is huge. And that's one of the biggest things. I think it's almost one of the biggest things in coaching. Apart from giving people permission to do things differently, is let's not take anything for granted. Anything for granted. It's like the little steps, the little sensory experiences, all of those things, that the words that we say, the phrases that we use, the tone that we say things in, all of those little things, and especially those little steps, are huge. And we can't assume anybody getting those little steps at all. We have to backtrack and learn how to break down those activities into tiny tasks. Otherwise, we get frustrated and they get frustrated. And then people think, everything just falls apart, and it's not pleasant, and it's not nice. And people get frustrated and people get angry. And it's not nice having life like that, is it? So,
no. Just thinking, sort of flipping this on its head slightly, when I used to do writing in school, so secondary school, so about 11 to 13 years, when I started writing kind of longer documents of maybe 500 or 1,000 words, my teacher would say to me, what you're doing is your brain is thinking at one level, your hand is writing at one level, and because your brain can think faster than you can physically write, your brain then skips over what's missing because your hand has then given up. and your hand then catches up with your brain. And that's how they explain to me why there's a missing 3 paragraphs in the middle of my thing. And I go from one word to another word, and there's sort of this huge gap of something. And they said it's because your hand can't write as quickly as your brain is sending messages to your hand. Is that another element of what we're talking about?
Yeah, totally. I find that as well. My brain, I know my mouth is much much further behind where my head is, which is the problem sometimes. And where my brain is, and I'm firing thoughts off all over the place, and I have to try and backtrack and think about it. But I think that's where the skill, certainly for anybody writing an essay or doing those things, that's why we are told, let's get those bullets down first, because you won't realize what you don't know, because you are whizzing through. It is. I just think our brains are utterly phenomenal, how quickly they can, under typical circumstances, process things at one level, but the rest of the body has to try and catch up. And it's great when we can all be processing at the same speed, but in reality, that doesn't happen. So whether it be writing an essay, or whether it be me speaking, whether it be doing a job, we need to try as best we can to get everything working in harmony and in sequence together, and then things function well. Otherwise, you get essays where paragraphs are missing out. And
been there.
And I think that's great. Great advice. Stuff, again, for those of us who've been through school, we kind of think, writing bullet points, get the main things down first, and then we can flow with the informations, because we will miss out the core elements unless we take time to specifically write that down and cognitively pay attention to, these are the absolutely key points that need to be in there. And don't assume that other people will get it. You really do need to spell things out for people to get things.
So bringing it back, this all back to Christmas, let me just set up a scenario. So you're taking your children to your grandparents' home. Maybe it's your wife's parents' home, so it's not that comfortable for you as the in-law, so to speak. And then you bring your grandchildren, who may have a wonderfully sort of secure, comfortable environment where they know where the toilet is, they know where the food is, they know where the glasses and the cups are. Now they're in an environment where there are 100 different rules. And then you throw into that Christmas lights, Christmas music, different people, different voices, different smells, the dog that they're scared of, all these 100 other sensory overload things, which I personally would struggle with. And then a command comes out, go and put the thing in the thing. And somehow somebody thinks that actually makes sense. And it might do to somebody who lives in that property. But actually, if you're just the grandchild, what thing in what? And then there's stress. And then there's all the stuff that starts to play out. How can we help the people that we're visiting have a really good experience of us being with them? Not because there's a problem on either side, but how do we most benefit the people that we are visiting, who perhaps don't understand how we live our lives? And of course they wouldn't, because we have different lives, but how do we help them?
I think everybody certainly should have those sensory passports, that sensory bits of information, and it doesn't matter how silly it looks or how silly it feels. It's just a little flyer about, this is me, this is our family, this is how we work best. And when people get over just the awkwardness and think, oh, that's a bit weird, and just recognize how helpful it is, just do that. Conversations beforehand, always there, always brilliant where you can, to explain, so that before you even get to the event itself, a few days before, a few weeks before, preparing them to say, look, we need to prepare ourselves, and we all want it to be a good thing. So just a few minutes preparation beforehand. One of the nicest things is those we talk about those sensory events during the day. Now, a Christmas day can be really quite triggering for lots of reasons, for all of those things that you've just explained. And we often find that we can have, this is our kind of default position of what we will be able to cope with on a regular day. And then we have the visit to somewhere else, and it is new. And the arousal levels start to go up. And then we've got the dog that comes in, as you described. And then we've got this, that, and the other. And we talk about that overload. But each of those sensory events, we could bring back down bring those arousal levels down one level. So instead of it getting an increase upon increase upon increase upon increase, which leads to either meltdown, exhaustion, kicking, hitting, screaming, just folks losing it or not being in a good place, after each new event, if something could be scheduled into the day to try and bring those nervous system arousal levels down, that would be beautiful and brilliant. So anybody who is receiving someone into their house, it's like saying, well, maybe we go for a walk before we do the next meal, or let's have a break, or let's make sure we just have some free time and then we'll come back for the next course, or we're just going to have a bit of quiet, or we're just going to play a really, really quiet game. You can have a 2-minute game. It's just like we have 1 minute silences, but it's just like a new Christmas game is let's see how quiet we can all be for 2 minutes. And that's what you do. So these little things, these little sensory strategies throughout the day, if we can bring those arousal levels down, and if it's introduced to the people who you're going to visit, or otherwise as a game or as a fun thing, or just that simply they understand that these things are going to help your family function better. But if you have things ready, prepared, either that you've talked about beforehand or that you can bring on the day, like the 2-minute silence or some of the therabands that folks might want to pull on to help reduce their arousal levels because they're using their proprioceptive system, they're using muscles, bring some extra chewing gum that they can chew on to help regulate themselves. Bring some things yourself, bring some strategies, bring some games, bring some ideas of good sensory things that you can put into the day, and then where you can forewarn and communicate beforehand and agree on things of how you'd like the day to go.
Another one that came to my mind is having, if it's possible, have a quiet space, a quiet room, perhaps that's set aside where there's an agreement, look, no noise, no digital devices. This is just a quiet space. If you want to come and sit down, then that's what this is. And you can have the lights slightly quieter. You can have no music in there. You can just have, you know, some perhaps battery powered candles just to gently illuminate or whatever. Just a quiet space. And you can talk to your guests. We do it, don't we? We're going out to someone's house for a meal. Oh, come on, let's have dinner. Okay. And then you don't just turn up. That person's probably going to say, well, what foods can't you eat? And we naturally do that in some scenarios. But as I said last week, how is it we get to Christmas and all the things that we know are really good, we chuck out the window and we just expect people who don't know each other to suddenly come together, mesh together, and somehow then not to be a problem just because it's Christmas?
Yeah.
How do we deal with that?
I know it's huge. I think it's just a huge amount of grace and a control in the nicest way. Control what you can. Accept that this is just part and parcel of the day, of the whole season. But really just putting up your own personal boundaries where you can for the things that you possibly can control, then do. Be prepared to be as assertive as you need to be so that you stay as well as you can be. I love that retreat space and the do not disturb. Make sure you get the do not disturb sign on the outside of the door. And actually thinking about rooms that decorations is something that it can be really scary when folks come in and somewhere that they really know and that they love and they are used to seeing look a certain way changes because all of a sudden you've got lots of things everywhere that weren't there before. And their safe and happy place is changed and it's not so safe and happy anymore because it's different and not what they've expected. So even for decorations, it's like you put those up bit by bit rather than having maybe one big blast of decorations, or you just change one room rather than changing the whole house so that they still have their safe spaces. Or like you were talking about that room that is somewhere they can retreat to, it's kind of like they know in their own house there are certain rooms that are not going to change. Not every single room is going to have decorations in it, so that it's not just a retreat room, but it's their normal, the kitchen's not going to have any decorations in it. So they know there is a normality about Christmas in the kitchen. It is still it is still Christmas, but that there's not going to be anything extra new, that there's going to be no incense. Christmas smelly sticks are not going to be in there. There's not going to be the decorations, the bright lights, or the flashing lights, or the lovely twinklies that we've got in our house. They're not there. They are for a Christmas room, and that might be your lounge, or you have to choose, I think, what kind of room. You might want to do a Christmas room and keep the rest of the house as neutral and as normal and as regular as possible. Or you do the other way, where you actually do make sure you have a room to retreat to. Or if you have guests who come, that they have a room that they can retreat to. But I think we often think, oh yeah, we need to decorate everywhere, whereas actually we don't need to decorate everywhere.
We don't need to do a lot of things.
We don't need to do a lot of things. No, you are right. You are right. Oh, actually, I've just thought of something else that came out from the comments of from some of the folk, was about giving warnings if you're going to do Christmas crackers, because they are really noisy, and the poppers. So making sure there is preparation for anything that is going to be quite explosive to the ears. And give warning, and make sure that either they are allowed to leave the room to do something, give them a reason to leave the room, or do it when they've nipped to the loo or something, or get those ear defenders and ear protectors on, if that is a big part of what the families choose to do.
I want to come back to you about flipping it on its head, so you're now the visitor going to somebody's house. We'll come back to that in a second. Would it help somebody? And this is why I have no clue. If the people who are hosting said, right, okay, we've got lots of decorations. This is, there's lots of Christmas stuff. Would it be beneficial to somebody who struggles with sensory needs, for them to say, right, can you help me decorate this part of the room while you're here, so that they have some sense of ownership? So in the craziness of flooded lights, Santa Claus popping out, all that, if they have their little zone that they put a bauble on, is that actually of benefit, or is that my mind too simple?
I think that is lovely. It's such a precious thing, because that's part of their control, and it's not so overwhelming that it's something that happens to them. They are part of the experience, and it helps the brain just absolutely absorb and to settle, and to be happy with the changes, because they are part of that process. Yeah, it's perfect. It's a lovely thing.
Would hanging a bauble be enough? Would it need to be a number of things? I'm just trying to work out what could a host who has no clue how to deal with sensory issues, because that's not something they've had to deal with before, and you don't know what you don't know. How much of that would they need to do in order to help the most people possible, so to speak, of people who would struggle with sensory? What depth would that need to go to as a thing to do?
Yeah, it is tricky, and I think that's where I concentrate a lot on the thumbprint, because we're also individualized. So the coaching is absolutely getting the core of who people are, how they are, what is real to them. Because for one person, one bauble would just be enough. For others, they would literally need to get a really heavy tree. They'd need to carry it in. They'd be part of the very beginnings. Getting proprioceptive input is part of their experiences. But the only way that they literally would be able to tolerate is to be fully immersed in it right from the very beginning, coming in and just even seeing any change to begin with would be too much. I think that's more on the extreme level. It does happen, but most people would just be the one bauble, or just a few items to help would normally be enough for most. But so individualized.
I like to think of simple things that we can do and say, well, here's something you can do. Let's flip this on its head. So we've looked at it from you're the host and people are coming to your home. What can you do? How can somebody who has, it's a stereotype for the sake of the conversation, but they've got a child who has real issues with sensory needs. How can they go to the host, whoever that might be, and be gracious in how they approach? What would be reasonable and sensible? So you're not saying, well, we're coming, we've got issues, so you need to wrap your world around us, because actually you're just one of 4 families that are attending, and actually it can't revolve around that one person. Yes, allowances, of course, but how can that person then go to somebody who has very little knowledge of of hosting somebody who does have sensory needs? What's a good approach for them in terms of how they go to I don't know, a family party with 10 different families?
Mm. That communication of, or that let's go back to mindset maybe to begin with first, and recognize that they have had probably years of experience, years of training on this, and what they know, they won't realize how much they have learned. They won't know. So when they take on board, when they actually stop and reflect and recognize how much they have changed, how much they have accommodated their individual, and learnt what really works for them, then you need to take it to the place of recognizing that other people really genuinely don't, that they're not doing it on purpose. And even when they say things to you, to be able to bounce that back, it was often, it's either like let it, wash off like a duck, wash off a duck's back. Often I find it's easier to say it's a shield. I find the shield easier for me, where like just arrows bounce off. And it's just like, just let it bounce off. Don't even, let it come near you. And just acknowledge that people will say things. Be prepared that people may say things that are not helpful. But that you have the attitude and that assurance and that confidence, that inner gentle determination, that you are going to protect your individual as much as possible. You are going to advocate for them, but you're also going to be relaxed and know that you are not going to be able to change much. You're just going to be able to oversee enough and do the best that you can in the circumstances. So I think preparing yourself in those ways, acknowledge what you've learned, recognize that other people are probably going to be quite clueless, recognize that you can only do as best you can so that you don't take on board more stress than you need to on top of everything else. Because often it's the parents who, I've got another mum, heading off to the dentist today. We've been working a long time on going to the dentist. The last time they had an absolutely brilliant time, yet the mum's nervous system is really heightened, is really quite stressed because, yes, although we've been working a lot, we've had a great experience. We've had 2 great experiences. There's nothing to say yet that they won't have another one, because of all of the history and all of the past. So it's like, just try and relax where you can, because if you can help be in the best place, that is certainly going to help every single person, whether it be the people that you're going to, the individual that you're just trying to keep an eye on, your child. But come with all those strategies. Come with as many sensory techniques as you can. Bring the little fidget toys. Bring something different for them to sit on. Bring any ear defenders, depending what their sensory thumbprint is. Come with as many of those things as possible. Speak to your host, but relax where you can. And if you need to leave, you need to leave, and that's okay. Again, allow yourself permission to enjoy it, have an hour, get the meal done or whatever, and then recognize and just give everybody lots of love. But that actually, it's going to finish the day better for everybody if you actually depart now. So you go for a short amount of time and don't expect to be there all day, if that's not helpful.
I think that is brilliant advice for everybody, actually. We've got to stay, we've got to do this, it's family, it has to work. And actually, do you know what? A good hour or 2 is better than a horrible 8.
Yeah.
That you don't speak to each other for another 6 months. So it's better to do short doses sometimes, because why do we expect all of a sudden at Christmas that people who don't know each other, who don't like each other, who never see each other, can suddenly, mesh? That thing I said at the start, it's crazy to think that the best host in the world is not going to facilitate 5 different families with 5 different needs who all want their thing, because we also need to be respectful of the fact we're in somebody else's home. And it's all that stuff that goes around and around. So yeah, a couple of hours, an hour is better as a good memory than an 8-hour slog, which you never ever want to repeat. Have you got any more comments from any of your lovely people?
Let me have a quick check if I'm here just for one moment. I think that was it. But I can remember. I don't want to take up time. I know
No,
we're
it's fine. I had
here.
one memory which I'm going to share. We had a wedding anniversary 13 years ago, and where we lived, we wanted to celebrate. It was fireworks, so we got some fireworks, and I made a point of going to all the neighbours within sort of 50 yards and saying, "Look, as much as I could, we're going to have fireworks. I want you to be prepared. It'll be at this time. It'll be for about 30 minutes, so you know what's coming. We want to do this. We want to celebrate with fireworks, but we don't want you to suddenly be sitting there and hearing bangs in start of November for no reason." And I do remember going to one guy who was a farmer who actually lived about 2 doors away. And I went to tell him, I said, "I know you've got dogs. I don't want your dogs to be startled. Perhaps you can go for a walk." "Oh, no," he said, "they're gun dogs. They're used to shotguns all the time. So don't worry about it." And it was just my greatest anxiety was these dogs, which is the only ones I knew of. And he said, "They're used to gunfire." And it's funny what we don't know that we don't know. And that's just another example of my anxiety of the dogs and him saying they won't care.
Wow.
They work around shotguns for a living, so it's fine. But it's one of the things that we put on ourselves, isn't it? Anxiety like that.
Yeah, it is. Literally, I have just checked, just as we've been on air, and we've got a new mum saying that actually you will be judged, and just acknowledging, stand up. I think that's assertiveness, but I think she was even more more assertive and basic, saying, "Look, you are going to get judged, and just do what's right for your family, and just go with it." So it's I think there is definitely within the community there's the sense of there's a sense we have to brace ourselves for being out there more over Christmas, because there are more expectations, or people are expected to be that little bit more engaged with folk that they haven't been engaged with during the year. So yeah, stand strong and stand firm.
I would add a
but
little, yeah. I'd add one little thing, which is don't arrive defensive, no matter what your situation. If you arrive
Yeah.
defensive, it's like carrying a fight to school. You're going to get into trouble. If you arrive defensive before you even walk through the door, that might be a good sign for you to go off for a little walk before you go in. Because if you arrive defensive, you're going to have an argument with somebody who may have absolutely no problem whatsoever. But if you're arriving in that state, that's probably a good point to say, "We've arrived, we're going to go for a walk first," and calm yourself back down. Otherwise, you're going to bring extra issues on top of all the other stuff. So I would say, yeah, definitely stand your ground. I've worked with some people with when I was in children's ministry, and they arrived defensive, and I always used to say, "Can you not? Because you're creating problems that don't even exist just because of being defensive. At least let us make a mistake first, and then you can get defensive." But try and arrive in that good place, and that's what we said last week, and that's what we've continued. It's preventing those stresses that we don't need, and yeah, you probably will be judged. But if you want to win people, then I would just add one little thing, having worked from a slightly different perspective, which is try not to arrive defensive. Yeah. It's really hard, especially with family, with that sister who you know is going to snipe at you and you're ready for that fight, but they might not. And if you arrive, you're going to actually then, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? You can actually create and generate problems that perhaps didn't need to be. So I love that one, though. Stand your ground, be assertive. And Lord Jackson said, be assertive.
Love, be kind, be gentle with everything. About playing off of your defensiveness. Don't go defensive. It's just this is the season. Above all, I think at all times we should try and always come with a sense of honor for others, but the sense of what does it mean to love in the circumstances, and a lot of that will be just letting things go. Let things go that may come at you, but just let them just bounce off you. I was
just trying to get a piece of scripture which I thought might be appropriate. The fruit of the Spirit. I'm in the wrong chapter. Hang on. I thought this might be a fitting way, perhaps, of how do we arrive. And I've lost it. Where's the fruit of the Spirit gone? It's gone. Where's the fruit of the Spirit? I thought it was Galatians.
Where are you in Galatians?
Galatians 5.
Yeah.
Where have I lost it? No, I've lost it. Hang on a minute. This is a really good way to finish, I think. I've lost it. I can't find it. I know it's here. I've quoted this so many times. Just talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Where's it gone? Galatians 5. Sorry. Got there. Galatians 5:22. Sorry. But the Holy Spirit produces the kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If we can exercise 3 of those this Christmas, how much more of a difference would it be? We know we've all got issues. Sensory issues to aside, we're all going to have those family contentions, which are always heightened. But yeah, the fruit of the Spirit, as it's often referred to, it's one fruit with 9 parts, not 9 different parts. But yeah, let's be loving, let's be joyful, especially at Christmas. Peaceful, let's be patient with those people who don't know. Kind to those who don't understand. Goodness, let's just overwhelm people with goodness. Faithfulness, that person is stressed. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, really, at Christmas. Gentleness, so key, especially with sensory issues. If we can be gentle, that would solve so many of the issues. And self-control. Sometimes biting your lip is appropriate. Sometimes I think we need to leave. It might be the best decision you can make and best decision for your family. And I think the other thing is Christmas is not a time of accepting people being cruel to you. It's not tolerating rudeness. Christmas is a time of remembering that Jesus Christ was born, which is amazing. It's a time of joy and family. But yeah, I think your that lovely quote from one of your people was stand your ground, be assertive, be firm. And I think that is good. But the fruit of the Spirit, if we can exercise 3 of those this Christmas,
amen, that
would be good, wouldn't it? Sorry, I'm talking lots. I got all excited then.
It's a great way to finish.
Not sorry I'm excited. I'm just sorry I sort of talk over it. Thank you, Anne. I've loved this this year so far as we begin really to explore. I'm sure we're going to come back to some of those same themes over and over again. There's going to be some trends of things that we keep on repeating, but that's important. And sometimes we need to keep repeating. And Anne Laure Jackson said, be assertive this Christmas. So I'm going to finish there. She's given you permission. Thank you, Anne. I hope you have a really good Christmas as a family and a really great New Year. We'll be back in the new year for more of these. Do send your questions on anything to do with sensory. Let us know how Christmas went on. Did you hear something Anne said and thought, I'm going to try that? Let us know how that went, for good or for bad, and we can try and help shape that better next time. Anne, give us your website so people can get hold of you the best possible way.
Brilliant. Thank you. AnneLaureJackson.com. ANNELAURE Jackson.com.
Thank you, Anne. It's been a pleasure. I love these sessions. I look forward to them every week, and I'm looking forward to many, many more through 2024. Thank you. God bless your family. Merry Christmas.
You too. Every blessing. Merry Christmas to you.
Pure 24/7 radio is listener supported, which means we are free, online and always pure because of the generous support of our listeners. If you would like to contribute financially, please visit pure247radio.org. If you'd like to find out how we use your money, please visit the Our Cost section. Any donation of any size will help keep us on air and broadcasting for free. Thank you.